Så, tack Lasse. Jag gillar den här ingången med August som ser sin tids förändringar och sin tids behov av förändringar. Och det tror jag är en otroligt viktig ingång i det arbetet vi behöver göra hela tiden. Att se var finns behoven och vad behöver vi göra egentligen? Vad behöver vi förändra? För förändringen i sig är liksom inget värde i sig. Det är bara förändringar som leder till förbättringar som egentligen skapar värden. Lasse var inne och pratade lite kort om Change Day. Och ni ser Change Day-loggan, ni har sett där ute Change Day roll-ups. Change Day är en kampanj som vi tillsammans med många andra här i Sverige har ställt oss bakom och driver här under en tid. För att synliggöra att vården och omsorgen kan förändras där vi står. Alla vi som jobbar inom det området har möjlighet att förändra oberoende vilka som fattar beslut på vilka nivåer. Vi alla har möjlighet att göra någonting bättre. Och om ni inte har gjort det så finns en dator där ute. Jag såg precis nu att vi är uppe i 600 löften som har samlats in här de senaste veckorna och månaderna. Om ni inte har gjort det så lämna ett löfte där ute i datorn. Vad vill ni förbättra när ni kommer hem härifrån? Change Day är ett koncept och ett program som har tagits fram i England. Och I will switch to English to just introduce Jackie Lynton and Pollyanna Jones. And both Jackie and Pollyanna have been central in the Change Day campaign in England. And Pollyanna is one of the young leaders working daily with mobilizing people for actually taking responsibility for their own possibilities to create change. It's a great pleasure for you to have you here today at Change Day and at Famnas Utvecklingssamtal. And we are eager to hear your experiences from England on how to create shared purposes and mobilize people for creating a better healthcare and social service. Please, Pollyanna and Jackie.
Good morning, everyone. What a great pleasure to be here. And I'd like to, first of all, thank Thomas for that really kind introduction, and Helena as well. And Helena and I met through Change Day, so it's fantastic. Change Day puts you in touch with people from all over the globe. So I'm just really encouraging you to get involved. So Pollyanna and I are going to be sharing the stage today. And we're going to be sharing some of our experiences. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction in terms of shared purpose. But we're really here to celebrate Change Day with you guys in Sweden. So can I just see how many people have pledged for Change Day? Oh, fantastic. That's almost like a third of the audience. And we've got about 170 people here. So we've got a third, I'm not very good at maths, but a third of 170 is what the people who are on the website. So that means 2/3 of the people haven't pledged. So everybody is going to pledge, we hope, by the end of this session. So at the back of your program, you have a I promise to pledge. And this is my pledge. This is my pledge to you. That when Helena and Thomas heard about Change Day, we promised to come here to share our experiences. So that was my pledge to Change Day. We've got a big conference going on in England today, but we decided to be here today. So I would like to say Happy Change Day to you. So at the end of this, we're all going to kind of hold up our cards and say what we've pledged. So think about your pledge as you're going through the program. And Pollyanna is actually going to video us all saying Happy Change Day, because we want to tell the people back in England that we've been here and that actually it's been a great place. So can I get us to just practice saying Happy Change Day for the video at the end? But I want it in Swedish, okay? So let's say it in Swedish and then in English. Is that okay? Because Change Day translates in any language. So could you do a kind of happy Change Day or read what's on there for me, just so we can have a practice? 1, 2, 3. Then in Swedish? Okay, but at the end of it, we're going to be all standing up with our cards and we're going to be really excited because they've sent me all the way to Sweden, so we've got to look as though we've been having a really good time. Okay, so thank you for that. So great. So we're going to just start with shared purpose. And what does shared purpose mean to us? Because shared purpose has been really instrumental for us in terms of Change Day. Then Pollyanna is going to come and share what we did for Change Day, share some of our experiences, and then if we have some time at the end, we'll do some kind of lessons learned and an opportunity for you, hopefully, to ask some questions as well. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I'm sure that our challenges in the NHS are exactly the same challenges that you have here in Sweden. We are the 5th largest organisation in the world. We employ 1.7 million people, and we have a population of 54 million. I know it's about 9 million here in Sweden. We have 54 million people in England, and 1 million people every day use our services. We spend £110 billion, and I've sort of done a translation in Swedish money, and the most of our money is spent on mental health. And I think that says a lot about shared purpose and about people's mental health and where they are. We have to save £30 billion over the next 4 years. It's a huge amount of money, and we have to deliver better service through quality improvement. And I know that many of you here are quality or improvement leaders, and so we are the ones who need to be looking at how can we change and improve services in a much different way than we have, because what we have done is not going to make that massive saving that we have to do. So when we think about change, here's 50 reasons not to change. And I'm sure that every single reason that you've heard anybody say is on that list somewhere. And there's always a reason not to change. But today's new world there's an emerging theme in terms of transformational change. And this dominant approach of power through hierarchy and through mission and vision and big strategies is changing. This top-down kind of transactional change is changing through power, through connections, through shared purpose, through making sense, through relationships, through making connections. So our whole world is changing. It's all about kind of, using new technology. Who here kind of uses Twitter and Facebook for improvement? Fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant. And I'm hoping that people are going to be tweeting out as we're talking. I'm not very good at listening and tweeting at the same time. I'm not from that generation. But who's heard of John Kotter? Who was kind of brought up in the John Kotter kind of school of improvement? And we all know that the 8 principles that John Kotter started us out with years ago. Well, John Kotter, through Accelerate, is also saying that we won't create big change through hierarchy on its own. We need hierarchy and network. And if we look at the 2 diagrams at the bottom, I'm just aware that the people behind me can't see, that changing mindsets through hierarchy is not the way to go, and that we need to think about change through networks. And as change agents, it's not about where we sit in this hierarchy. It's actually how do we connect people through this. That's what our role is how we enable and how we have many change agents, not just us as change agents. So I'm sure that many of you have seen these slides as well, that 70% of our change efforts do not deliver do not deliver. This is a very, very old slide. And this is right across all change, right across, I think this is an international study, and it's been around for many years. So only 25% of change projects deliver their full objectives. That is a huge amount of waste. 5% delivers the sustainable change. 5%. And that is really, that to me, I feel sad every time I look at that slide. And sometimes our strategy for dealing with it looks like this. It's about focus on productivity, on program management, on system drivers, hitting targets, sort of inspection regimes. But one of the things that we talk about in England is that innovation is the only way that we can that we can meet these challenges. And it's got to become core business. That's a massive challenge for us. And even when we were doing Change Day, people sort of said, well, where's the project plans? Where's the traffic lights? How are you going to know that you've delivered the outcomes? But if we'd have said, pledge for Change Day, then we're going to traffic light you, then we're going to performance manage you, then we're going to ask you what the outcome is, do you think that we'd have even got one pledge? And this is about how we use different resources for change. So 70% of change doesn't meet its targets, and that is built on sort of 5 flawed assumptions. And the first one is that we can manage all change, that actually it can be managed in a very systematic way, and that human beings are objective. When we think about change, we have complex change and we have complicated change. And complicated change is like machines. Machines are complicated, but complexity is about human beings, and that's a variable. And the third assumption is that there are 3 steps to change or 6 steps to change. Well, yes, there are, but there are other factors involved in that as well. And that we all have a neutral starting point for change. Do forgive me if I'm talking too fast, actually, because I hope the pace is okay. And that the change in itself is the goal. Well, the change in itself is not the goal. The goal is the goal. The goal of what you're trying to achieve is the goal. That is what the goal is. So what happens in large-scale change? I won't go through all of this. I'll let you read it. And I have the book that we have that's referenced here. I'm going to leave a copy with Thomas. But the effort that it often runs out of energy. Do people kind of relate to that? You start something off, everybody's excited about it. You have big, thick project plans, and then sort of 2 or 3 months down the road, the energy runs out. Is that something familiar? Yeah, absolutely. And then it just hits a plateau. And things get established, reasonably work well, but actually it doesn't really do the full change that you want. So disruption is the new normal. And I work for a team called the Horizons team in England. It's part of the team that's part of our big improvement body. And we're all about bringing new ideas from all over the world, bringing them back so that we can challenge the status quo, so that we can challenge our own organization. So disruption is the new normal. And I just want to focus on, there's too many things on this slide, but I just want to focus on the green one in the middle. Because as improvement leaders, we're used to doing something, but we need to move from doing to actually connecting. That is our new improvement tool, skill that we need to learn. Not doing, but actually connecting. And we have new roles, we need new roles, which are about curating, that we're relationship leaders, that we're storytellers, that we're co-creators, that we bring people together. That is a skill. So what is shared purpose? So when we think of shared purpose, often people think about, the the CEO and the directors going off for an away day somewhere, and then they come back and they say, we've got a shared purpose, it's our mission statement. And some people in the organization, they say, but it doesn't include me. I don't feel that I can connect to this shared purpose. I'm not talking about that type of shared purpose. I'm talking about this type of shared purpose, which goes way deeper than mission and vision. It goes right into the gut and taps some part of that primal self. I believe, and this is from Seth Cargilio, and he says, I believe if that we can bring people together with similar primal purposes together and get them all marching in the same direction, amazing things can be achieved. And that's our experience. It's been our experience of using Marshall Gantt's community organizing principles. I've just personally just finished the course. Absolutely fantastic course, Harvard course. So it's all about how we can get people as improvement leaders marching in the same direction. So have we got until 10 o'clock? Yeah, okay. So introducing the change model. This is something, you can't read all of this, but we introduced this a couple of years ago. And when we look at all the components to the change model, and by the way, all change models are sort of, have some use. So there are eight components to the change model. And some of those components are about intrinsic factors. So intrinsic factors are about leadership for change. They're about engaging to mobilize. They're about connecting. They're about the softer aspects of change. And then there are some extrinsic factors which are about rigorous delivery, transparent measurement, system drivers. But what are the things that we actually focus on when we start talking about change? What are the things that we focus on? What's your experience? Well, let me tell you what my experience is. My experience of change is that we say, we're going to have a change program. Who's going to be the leader? Let's have a project plan, and off we go. And actually, we leave out and we forget those things that are about how do we bring that shared purpose together. And it's the number one reason why many projects fail, that we don't spend enough time on building that shared purpose and building people's connection to why are we doing the change. And this was using the change model. This was a asthma project who actually scored themselves against the change model. You can see there that shared purpose is one of their lowest scores in terms of how, and what do you think that project, do you think that project's going to be a really successful project? Or is that going to really struggle? So it's a great way to kind of, even before you start. So what we're trying to do in terms of shared purpose is understand our own purpose, but also move from that me, and it's about me and what's in it for me, to the we. We want to create that us and us. And when you create the us and us, you get the power of marching in the same direction. So, how do great social movement thinkers change the world? When we think of Martin Luther King, when we think of Gandhi, when we think of the women's movement, how do they do it? Well, often in our strategies, we look at the what and the who. So that's one of the first things that we go to. And that's all about the head. It's all about intellectual, getting your, documents in order. And then we go straight to action. We go to the hands. What are the behaviors that we want to create? What do we want to do? How are we going to lead? And often we forget the heart. The heart is where you get all the emotional buy-in. That's where people how people make decisions about through emotion. And so what I would say to us as improvement leaders is that we need to focus on this heart. It's not an either or, it's all of them, but we need to spend a lot more time building in that emotional connection to change. So, just to summarize then, taking us through when we build values, when we connect with people, with emotionally, we connect to their values. And that's what we're doing. We do that through storytelling. We do that through sharing an experience. We do that through a call to action. And when we share our values, it brings that emotion. And when people are more inclined to take action when they have built that emotional connection. So action equals emotion, sorry, values equals emotions equals action. So 6 reasons why we should start with shared purpose. And the shared purpose in the head, heart and hands is the why. And I haven't got enough time to go through all of these, but I'll just maybe pick out 2. So Edgar Schein says you can't impose anything on anyone and then expect them to be committed to it. Those people who start with why, it's not about manipulation, it's about inspiring. And people follow not because they have to, but because they want to. And that's the buy-in that we're looking for. So, what is your purpose and how does that fit with the higher purpose? Well, my purpose can then translate to our purpose. And that's what we're trying to do. It expresses who I am and why I do what I do. So this is me when I was 22 years old. I just joined the health service. I was that young, not quite, a little bit younger than Pollyanna. I was that young, enthusiastic nurse who wanted to change the world. You know, I wanted to make such a big impact. But about 2 years into being qualified as a nurse, I was a whistleblower. And it had a tremendous impact on me because my profession didn't listen. And the incident that happened that I was whistleblowing about was a really, really serious, the person really should have been struck off. But that didn't happen. And so what happened to me was I completely checked out. I left the health service for 8 years. It was not a profession that I felt proud of. But there was something about my experience that said, actually, there's some hope. And I came back 8 years later, and I came back with a passion and a vigor for making a difference. And I spent most of my career really fighting for change and being that person who's going to make a difference. And we're just going to talk about Change Day now. And actually, I put all of my energy into Change Day. Change Day was like such a reconnection with my values of why I became a nurse, why I'm connected to what is my purpose. And I know that over the last 2 or 3 years, they've probably got more out of me than in my whole career in the last 30 years. So Change Day has a shared purpose about moving from single action to collective action. So our role as a leader is to enable others to achieve purpose. And Change Day, this was one of the biggest motivating factors, that actually people didn't feel that they had permission to make the changes, the things that they know that they should do or want to do. And this was just one of the cartoons that we commissioned. So part of our role is about giving people permission, but also as change makers, it's also about believing that we can make the change as well. And this is a nation sharing a sense of shared purpose. This was at the Olympics. NHS was actually at the heart of our Olympics, that we're proud of the NHS. So those are hopefully just some small ways in which we have shared purpose. So